I feel in my heart that somebody has came up here and took her, has lured her away from here.
I think someone come up here and grabbed her and ran down the hill.
I think so too.
And threw her in a car and drove as far away as they could from this area.
I know she didn't walk away from this property by herself or off this yard.
Would come up here and take our daughter. This is not going to be somebody like, oh, well, I love you so much, and I just want to save you from a bad situation. 90% of the time when someone takes a little girl or whatever, or even is hurt, 90% of the time is because they're predators. So it's not good. Somebody has hurt her, probably sexually, maybe beat the fuck out of her, probably killed her.
Possible that something happened to Summer that Candace knows about that's not her fault, but she is just nervous now and feeling bad about it.
Well, no, because she knows better. She would know to go directly to law enforcement. An accident's one thing. She would never do something like that. She knows better than that. I know it happens. It does happen with people, but no. She would go directly to law enforcement. She'd call an ambulance right away, number one, do anything. She would freak out.
Could she have gotten herself into a situation where it wasn't her fault, but...
No.
You know what I mean?
No. She's a good mother. She loves her children. She's not going to allow any situation like that. The biggest mistake she might have made is maybe choosing some wrong brands, which is, it happens.
Summer's disappearance. He says, I've got 7 alibis. Candace has none. She's going down. Listen.
I have 7 alibis. Candace, she's going down.
So does this sound like a man who cares about finding his daughter?
Is there anything about Candace's story that makes you question the story?
No, not the way it played out and everything like that. I mean, yeah, you always have questions, and I'd ask myself, with the way that it happened and her emotions and her state of mind.
What were the questions that you had?
I mean, I don't really have any. I mean, I don't really have any questions. I mean,
what are the possibilities in your mind? I know what your heart's saying. Your heart's saying she's with somebody right now. How would we know how to connect that dot? You and me.
Well, like, for instance, that Dobbs guy that was supposed to be camping across at my neighbor's house.
Right.
He was there that same time, and then Tony Hammonds, whoever the hell he is, he was down through there.
Who was there when you got home?
There was nobody there. There was my mom mentioned the blue van across at my neighbor's house, but I just figured she had company.
Okay.
I didn't know about that was the guy that was trying to move in there. I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
And so I didn't think nothing. I just figured it was neighbors. I had visitors.
Okay.
I didn't think nothing about that. I gotta stop. I can't do no more. I gotta have a cigarette. Sorry.
No, good. Light it up.
I just don't.
Light it up,
no,
girl.
I don't want to breathe.
Kingsport. A suspect has been taken into custody following an attempted kidnapping on Thursday.
these are tough questions.
No, I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, I am.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
No, and I want to go home.
So notice the evasion, the distraction. I'm the victim, I'm being interrogated. What did it do? It got her out of this interview. And I think the guys were correct to note that this happened when she was talking about the cornbread mafia. Is that a real thing? I don't know. There's definitely traffickers, though, and there is, as far as I know, some corridor in the south where people get trafficked. As far as the cornbread mafia goes, we'll keep that on the table.
Well, wait, I don't do none of that snitching, no, none of that, so.
While we were in the drive-through, her husband calls her talking about this dude named Andy or Andrew on the property that's been there for like a week or so. She told me they keep stalking other kids.
But do you know any of the surrounding people around their house?
Their house, all I know is that there was, what's it called? Some dude named Andy. That's all I know. He worked at a mechanic shop and he sold weed. That's all I know. All right. Well, wait, I don't do none of that snitching. No, none of that. So.
Summer Wells disappeared from. This footage was taken inside of this house where Summer lived. Her parents said that she was abducted from their property. It's 11 acres. It's on the top of this small mountain. It's actually very steep. I've been to this location multiple times in the past 2 years. From the road, you can stand and you can look and see the home. A local sent me this drone footage. He emailed it to me. I thought I would share it with you guys because it's kind of interesting to see the layout of the different structures on the property, the cars. There's a school bus. This area is very rural. It's called Beach Creek. It's kind of in a valley. It's actually a beautiful area of Tennessee, kind of tucked away off the beaten path. But the whole point is that it's remote. It's just very wooded. There's huge properties with lots of land.
The night Summer went missing, the neighbor swears that she and her 2 children heard a scream shortly before they joined the search for a now missing Summer Wells.
It's there, but you want to forget.
On the watch and hypervigilant. That's how Jody Sue Brown was the very day Summer Wells went missing.
There's no TV, no noise at all.
Jody Sue was in her cabin with her teenage kids, 19 and 14, waiting for anything.
We were kind of hyper alert because of property things that had happened the day before. So we were listening for noise. Everything was kind of quiet.
The sale brought a plethora of people to their door, confused about which piece of land was for sale, leading to a dispute of property lines.
While we were out at one point doing survey lines, and there was a flash of a car that went up Candace and Donnie's driveway. Something about it struck me wrong.
She and her family next heard a truck door slamming and dismissed it as their neighbors. The next sound was harder to justify. About an hour and a half before Summer is thought to go missing, Jody Sue, her son, and her daughter heard something far more suspicious. A scream.
Stopped all three of us cold.
Her daughter was the first to go to the cabin door. Then all three were there, listening still.
We heard just this kind of shrill, almost animalistic scream.
Animalistic, but not an animal.
Knew it was, wrong. It wasn't a dog. It wasn't an animal.
That vigilance kicking into overdrive. Jody Sue and her son went out to look for the source of the scream.
My son and I decided to go out and look and see what we could see. We went back onto the bank. Didn't see anything. Didn't hear anything.
They went on with their evening. The kids returned to being kids. Jody Sue headed down her driveway around 6 to tend to flowers.
And at this point, I start hearing Candace hollering for Summer. And then my brain immediately went, scream earlier, this, uh-oh.
Jody Sue was the first to hear those calls and the first to join the search for Summer.
I dropped my purse. I tried to yell up at Candace. I was like, I'm looking, and I started looking.
Jody Sue searched one side of a creek, Summer's brothers the opposite side.
And you gave statements to the police, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Y'all go over there and ask why exactly it is he was selling drugs to the children at 110. Why he was potentially causing little girls over there to be sedated and to be touched with the shit he was selling over there. Go ask. Because I have fucking questions. Not standing in front of him anymore. Yeah. And I found about a few days before all the shit went down. I'm not kidding, dude. And I got the fucking receipts on it. And I'm sure law enforcement does as well. He had known Summer was also being abused, and he hid it from everybody, including me. And he was very much selling drugs to the children at 110. And to Candace for those children. Now, what all that was, I don't know. But I do know it was happening. And I very much think it plays a role in what was happening to other little girls over there. And I very much do think that it could be part of why Summer was so asleep. Is maybe possibly Candace giving her the shit Andy was selling to her. So go ask.
Maybe something happened to it, because nobody could find you or anything. But because I know how to go off grid when I have to. That's very interesting. So how did you get to Tennessee, if you don't mind me asking? Any question you want to answer, anything, just tell me. I will gladly answer. So Tennessee, at the time I was living in upstate New York. I was going through a bad divorce with my ex-wife, and when the guy I was staying with, he's a good friend of mine, Jeff, he was moving to Tennessee, and I was like, you know what, can I go giving it to someone else. We didn't have anywhere to go. And Jeff's friend was living there in Tennessee, and she was like, I have a friend that's renting the room. And I said, I'll take it because I'm not going back to New York. This divorce is putting a heavy toll on me. I just need a few months to go back to work. So that's how I wound up meeting Candace and her family.
Okay. Now, is Jeff Hunter's dad?
No. Okay. No. Hunter's father is Andrew Hill.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah. That's his father.
Okay. What was their dynamic or family dynamic like with like Don and Candace and the kids and everything?
Well, with Candace was mainly the one always home, and then Don was basically the drunk. He always drank. He literally woke up drinking, went to bed drinking, drove drunk, like everything.
That's what he's in jail for now.
That's right.
Well, that's what I constantly was the biggest fight I had with him.
Okay, so he's about to talk about the fight that happened. Now, the fight that happened was, what was it, 8 months? Between the time Jose left and the time Summer went missing was about 8 months. So this fight was about 8 months or so. So yeah, there's that. And he's going to talk about the incident.
And then there was one time we were there, and I wound up cooking a Spanish dish for everyone, and she was amazed because it was the first time Candace ever seen a man cook, like literally cook from scratch. And I cooked them a meal, and he just went ballistic. He threw a beer bottle at me, tried to come at me, and then Candace got in the way, and he tried to assault her, and then I wound up jumping in to protect her from him, and that was the first time he got arrested.
Dudley, in the beginning, said that Jose was up there the weekend or the week before or whatever, but he was referring to a Mexican guy, is what Dudley said. And so he later said he'd never seen Jose, and that wasn't Jose that was up there. It was just some other Mexican guy or whatever. Now, as you know, Jose, we know where Jose was the week before and the day where Summer went missing. We know that. The FBI knows that. So, no false information there for sure. I want to make that very, very clear. And Dudley recanted that statement because he thought, which actually Jose's Puerto Rican. Anyway, but it's very interesting because in this recording, I don't know if we'll get to it today or not. Yes, Jose left the state. But it's very interesting because in this recording, like I said, I don't know if we'll get to it today or not, but Jose talks about a Hispanic or Mexican guy that Don was around. I think he came up to their house, and remember whenever they thought this was Jose, they said Jose was in jail, and whenever he got out of jail, him and Don got in a fight because Don had either used up or sold all of his DRUGS. Well, that was just days leading up to when Summer vanished. Now, we know it wasn't Jose. For one, we know where he was at. The FBI knows where he was at. Number two, he was not ever in jail in Tennessee to begin with, let alone in Hawkins County in jail. But that's what Dudley was getting confused on. Now, what I want to know is, Dudley has made a claim that there was a Mexican up there when he tried to get paid to get Dudley wanted to get some money, but Don and this Mexican guy was up there fighting. And then Jose makes a claim that Don was working with a Mexican who would come up to his house. Now, I would like to know who that alleged, Hispanic man is. For sure. For sure. Now, if they were fighting over DRUGS, and Don took it was supposed to be a significant amount of dope. And, that could be a reason someone would do something. However, even if someone did something, I think the Wells are still knowledgeable about what happened. Hold on, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try to fix this well.
Hey Jose, how are you doing? I'm hanging in there over anything. And then there was one time we were there and I wanted to cook in a Spanish dish for everyone. And she was amazed because it was the first time Candace ever seen a man cook. Like literally cook from scratch. And I cooked them a meal and he just went ballistic. He threw a beer bottle at me, tried to come at me, and then Candace got in the way and he tried to assault her, and then I wound up jumping in to protect her from him, and that was the first time he got arrested. And when they arrested him in front of me, he literally had a gun in the car, and knowing that he's a felon, he's not even supposed to have a gun. Exactly. And he had a gun in the car, and what really upset me was like 4 days later, they released him from prison.
I want to start at the end of when you left 110 Ben Hill Road, and then we're going to reverse it for a second, and we're gonna go back to the beginning. Okay, but give me an idea to the best of your recollection. And you know me, you and I have been going back and forth a couple of times, and am I a straight shooter with you so far?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I've held you accountable on some things, haven't I?
Correct.
Okay, so that said, we are all here tonight for one purpose, and that purpose is the truth. And so, kind of sugarcoating things, or if you don't remember, just say, I don't remember. Okay? But at the same time, if you do remember and you don't share it, okay, that's not real good either, right? Because ultimately what we're trying to do here is narrow down a scope of time, and then in relationship to that scope of time, some of the behavioral analysis aspect of Summer. And I don't want to go into heavy duty, big time, SA stuff. We all know that exists. Am I right or wrong? With Dawn. Would that be an accurate statement?
It's horrible the way it was coming out and everything. That's when I knew, like, it's bad, like real bad. Like, this guy's been doing this for years. It's not a couple of years. He's been basically doing it all his life.
So let's go back. What I want to do is kind of, stay focused in relationship to, some of the things that you remember. So when did you leave 110 Ben Hill Road? What date was that, or what month?
It was October. From the receipt that I had checked, it said October 15th.
Okay, and what year?
2020, I believe.
What year?
2020.
Okay, so that's like 2 years ago, almost.
Yeah.
Okay, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will have to look at my bank statement again, because I had pulled it up when Justin had asked for it, and I had sent it to him.
And I think, Chris, that report from that altercation was 2020, the end of 2020.
Yeah, it was October, in that ballpark.
Correct.
Okay, so from there, you left, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I know you got a ride to South Carolina. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, and that was with Grandma, Summer's grandmother, to Rock Hill, South Carolina, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so just in that truck ride, this is where I want to ask you, and this is why I want to start here. In that truck ride, tell me about Grandma.
No, pretty much we're just talking normal things and just discussing on what happened with Dawn and, her concerns about him coming back home.
And break that down.
So she's always had problems with him, always. They always were bumping heads. She said he's a control freak. He manipulates her. He's always angry. Every time they want certain foods or whatever to make in the house, he won't. He'd just rather spend dollar things and just drink all the time. And when I was looking at her, I had asked her, I was like, has he always been like this? And she said, yeah, he's never changed it. He said he's going to change. And he would change for like maybe a good week or two, but then automatically he's right back in it again. And I was like, wow. And most of the time I was just begging her to try her best for him not to go back in that house, to make sure that the order protection goes through and just keep him away, as best as she can. And she was like, I swear, I promise you, I will do my best. That was her exact words to me.
How long did it take to get from Tennessee to Rock Hill, do you think, if you remember?
Almost 4 hours. I drove it.
About 4 hours?
I'm the one who drove there. Yeah, I'm the one who drove her truck there, and she drove it back home.
Okay.
And is that because they wanted you to leave?
No, that was my complete decision. It was enough because my concern was if he entered back the home and I was there, one of us was not going to come out walking.
Okay, and we can get into that later if necessary. So one of the in that 4 hours though, what was Grandma's state of mind?
Nervous.
And what was yours?
Anger, frustration, depression, anxiety. I just had a whole bunch of emotions going through.
At that time, you had a plate full of emotional dynamics. Would that be an accurate assessment, or you tell me?
Yeah, I was suicidal, full-blown alcoholic. Yeah, I had it real bad.
Okay, and a lot of that came. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That was my reason for leaving New York when I did. It was just too much, and the doctors that I had spoken to, it was a panel of them. They all agreed. And they were like, you need to leave. This place is a trigger. You know, it triggers you. And as long as you stay, you're not going to get better. So I took their advice and I did it.
And at that point in your life, you really weren't an altar boy, were you?
No, absolutely not.
Tell me a little bit about that history.
Well, growing up, I had it bad. I'm a SA survivor. When I was and that went over a course of 2 years. And you know, after that, I was wondering, you know, who I could tell of my family and things, but I felt scared and ashamed of it. So I really kept it to myself. And then in middle school and stuff, I started to lash out, started running away, hanging out with the wrong people. And I wound up starting to sell drugs. And I wound up dropping out of high school on my senior year. At that time, I started to sniff coke, and I was smoking weed and drinking. And then I was also selling at the same time. And then I wound up getting arrested. And I wound up getting charged with possession of a controlled substance with the intent of sale. And I wound up getting 3 separate charges for that. And they gave me 3 years running consecutively. And I wound up being sentenced to C-76 in Rikers Island.
That's kind of a combat. That's kind of a gladiator school, isn't it? Rikers.
Yeah.
And that's it's a rough place. Go ahead.
While I was there, I got sexually assaulted there by 6 men. I was still not even an adult. I was like 18, 19, somewhere around there. And I was assaulted there. And then when I got released, I met my ex-wife. And you know, things seemed to be a little better with her. I wound up marrying her, and we had 3 children. Once my children were born, I just completely stopped. Because I was just afraid that if I kept doing what I was doing, somebody else was going to raise them. And somebody else was going to be called dad instead of me. So it kind of like straightened me out. It kept me walking that real fine line. And, you know, with everything that happened with me in the past, it was more of, I don't want to return back to prison, you know?
Right.
So I just tried to keep a straight line as best as I could.
When you got out, how long did you stay clean?
So I've been clean since I came out.
Okay, so you were 18. Is that right? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
No, I was, when I got released, I was almost 20.
Okay,
when
so
I got released.
What did you do? 3 years out of what was your sentence? What was your sentence? Can I ask?
Yeah, it was 3 years, but it was 1 year charge, and the judge basically wasn't hearing anything, and he was like, "You got to do them consecutive. I'm not gonna run them at the same time."
Okay.
And so it was basically 1 year. You know, it's like they release you, but they don't. Then they send you back. You do your other year. Then they release you, but they don't. And then you do your final year. And that's how it was.
Yeah, that's the time they were stacking sentences is what that's called. And that's you're going to do a little more time. So when you get out, obviously, there came a point. Josh, you have any thoughts on what I've asked so far?
No, not so much. I just can you clarify one thing? I guess is that when you said how long did you stay clean, and you said you'd been clean when you came out. You've been
since
clean.
I've been out of prison. Yeah, since I've been out of prison, I've been clean since then.
So no drinking, no alcohol.
No, I literally just stopped all of that. All I did was really smoke cigarettes.
Okay, but then later on in life, you had a struggle again. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. But no, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, so at some point you come across. Let's jump forward here for a minute. Now you're married, you got kids, all the other stuff. Your life is, somewhat it'd be a roller coaster. Would that be a pretty good description of what's going on in your surroundings, your environment, and your life as a whole?
Yeah.
Okay. And at some point, and by the way, I want to give. We got to make sure that our members in our chat and our subs, from both channels, we just want to give you a trigger warning. If any of this, in any way, shape, or form, is causing you anxiety or any type of problem, just maybe this is a time for you to step back. We'll come back to it at a later point, but we just want to be sensitive and considerate to you as well, because at some point it would be an accurate assessment, right, Jose, that you get to a point where you have multiple relapses, and then somehow you end up a friend of the H's dad up in New York, right? You had moved out of the city into the suburbs pretty much, hadn't you?
Yeah. That was my mother's decision when my mother was alive. He was like, you had it rough, everything that happened, I don't want my grandbaby to be affected. And pretty much me and my ex-wife agreed. We went up there to go visit. We liked it, and we decided to just move out there.
Okay. So break that down for us. Who did you end up meeting up there, and how did that all kind of unpack?
I met Andrew probably about maybe 4 or 5 years after I had moved up there. I had met Andrew, and he seemed pretty okay guy, He didn't seem like out of the ordinary at the time. I didn't see him using drugs. He did drink once in a while when he goes camping or barbecues and things like that, but never to the extreme. And he seemed
what do you
like
mean?
a pretty good guy. Well, because, the way he looks now, it looks like he's on something now or constantly drinking, He looks like he's under a lot of problems and depression right now.
Okay, Yeah, I really don't want to go there with him. What I want to do is kind of figure out, how did you end up, kind of you guys mixing together, and somehow you ended up down at 110 Ben Hill Ben Hill Road. You ended up in Tennessee. Tell me about those dynamics. And let's get a little nitty gritty there in terms of what was going on. Why all of a sudden there's this move to go down to Tennessee with how many people, by the way?
Okay, so it was Andrew, his wife, I believe, his 2 children. Then it was Jeff and his woman, and I believe her 3 children. And it was me as well. And then 2 other people came. Those were Jeff's friends that he worked with the husband, and the wife, he wound up befriending the wife as well. And they were the ones who actually rented the van and the truck to go down to Tennessee.
Okay, and what's the goal?
They said they had a place down there. I was already going through problems, and
right.
I just had begged Jeff, basically, like, Jeff, please, if we going down there, just take me with you. I'm waiting for my contract to go back to work, because I was, working out of state at the time, and it was only seasonal. So.
And what were you doing?
I was a seafood processor on a fishing boat in Alaska.
Okay.
And I just had to wait for my paperwork to come back for, to go back to work. And during the time it's COVID, so you also needed a special letter from them, stating that I was deemed an essential employee for me to be able to move freely and to travel to go back and forth to work. So, and plus my new contract, because the contracts were based on 4 to 5 months, out of the year. It depends on what season you chose to pick. So that's all I was really waiting for. But because I was there, I was just so depressing, and I'm drinking and just crying. Yeah, and all I was thinking about was just offing myself, as you could say, just calling it quits.
So, Jose, when you were leaving there, you were the one that asked to go along. When they were leaving for Tennessee, what was in their plan? You said they had a house down there.
Yeah, that they already had a house waiting for them. Jack already had his transfer came in from the Walmart in Gloversville. They had his transfer completed to go to Kingsport to work down there. So he already had a job established there. So that's when it kicked in my gear. Well, if he's going to be working down there, I could find a little part-time job too until I leave, just to have a little extra money in my pocket. So I never think anything that something was going to go bad. I actually thought everything was already planned out and it was fine until we got down there. And all of a sudden, everything started to fall apart.
And you were going through a divorce at the time. Is that why you wanted to leave?
Yes, absolutely. I had just been released from basically the mental health ward in Albany Medical in Albany, New York, and I was there for almost 16, 17 days. They had me there. And that panel was the one that suggested that you need to go and don't look back. You have to go because this place is a trigger. And that's all they kept saying, that it's a trigger for me.
And did they actually have a house set up?
As far as I knew, yes. I just didn't know where it was. I just went along for the ride. That's what I did. I literally sat in the back of that U-Haul truck. I don't know if it was a U-Haul or Pesky, well, one of those trucks. But I was sitting in a couch, locked in the back for almost the majority of the ride.
So at some point you make the destination, and where did you guys pull into when you first got to Tennessee? Do you remember?
Yeah, we stopped at the storage where Jeff wanted to put some of the things in storage, because they really did have a lot of stuff. So I didn't take it that the house was like real big, but he just wanted to sort some things out. So he was like, I'm just going to get the storage. We put everything here into the storage because the people who had rented the van, they had to return that back that day. And we knew it was a long ride for them to go back. So when we got there, we parked in front of the storage. We probably waited about an hour for it to open. Once it opened, he went in, got the storage. We drove the truck in, and we just unloaded it into a unit. And then they were supposed to leave. And within the time we're unloading, you know, Jeff and Andrew are on their phones, and I guess that's when they found out that the house didn't come through and all this other stuff. They were upset. And then Jeff and Andrew were talking, well, let's find a hotel at least, you know, so we could figure out what we're going to do, because Jeff already had his transfer and he didn't want to lose it. So me and Andrew, we walked a lot in that beanie sun. I don't know if my shoulders were burned because I had a tank top on. I never will forget that.
Okay, so just out of curiosity then, the house falls through, or at least it sounds like it's falling through. How does the Wells family come into this? At what point?
So, Andrew had called them, like, after we unloaded the truck, that we started looking for the hotel room. It must have been our second or third hotel we went to check.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm going to call my son's mother. Maybe she might know a hotel, a cheap enough hotel for all of us to get, you know, at least 2-3 rooms for us. Okay. And he wound up calling her, and then she was like, you're here? And he's like, yes, we're here. And then he gave her the directions. Maybe a half hour later, we met her in front of like a Dollar General or something like that. And it was like right down the block from the storage. And that's when I first seen them. I didn't actually meet them until we were loading the truck for them to leave. And I said, I'm not going back. And I was like, please talk to your son's mother to see if she can help me find a place out here. You know, I could get a job, I'll pay rent, whatever like that. And that's when she had spoken to Candace.
Okay, so this is, when you say seen them, who's them? This is Allie?
Candace,
and who's?
Candace, her mother, Allie, Allie's youngest daughter, and Hunter and Summer.
So everybody meets you guys at this Dollar General store. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what happened?
And Andrew and them were speaking. I was just by the truck, just sitting down, resting. And we must have been there about a good 2 hours, 2-3 hours. And I'm just sitting there wondering, what are they going to do? You know, because I just came along for the ride. So I didn't put no insight in it. I just zipped up, and I just sat there and waited. And that's when Jeff came back, and he was like, we're going back. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, we just got to go back. And I'm like, well, you gave your keys to your apartment and all of this. Like, where y'all going to go? And they're like, oh, we'll have somewhere to go when we get back. And I was like, well, I don't. Like, I literally left everything over there. I don't want to go back at all. And they were like, don't worry, we can try to figure something out for you. So while we were loading the truck, like halfway through it, just my mind was running and running, and I just started to tear up because my depression, anxiety started to kick in real bad, and I was just tearing up, and I began to shake a little, and that's when I said, Andrew, I'm not going back. And they were shocked, all of them, like, what? I said, I'm not going back. I said, please call your mother, ask her, just ask her, see what happens. And he wound up calling her, and Candace said yes, and then they wound up turning right back around to come pick me up to go with them.
Back to New York?
No, Candace and her mother and Allie came to pick me up to go to the Wells house, and Andrew and his family and Jeff and his family, they all returned back to New York. We parted ways right from the storage area. After they loaded up the truck that I finished helping them, we just split ways. I went with Allie, Candace, and her mother, and everybody else went back to New York.
So I have a question. That corridor right there is, a pretty notorious corridor for mule and dope. Is this a dope run from New York to Tennessee?
No.
Could it be?
No. Not that I know of. They knew better than to bring that around me. They knew better. Because I told them, I'm not going to jail for nobody. So I don't want, because a few of them smoke marijuana. In New York, that's illegal. Not like, in other states where it's legal.
You see, but
you like, well, we're going to take something to smoke. And even I was like, nah, you're not going to bring that. No.
Yeah, right.
We got to keep
everything.
They could push you for trafficking, and I was like on them with that. And they were like, you know what, Jose, you're right. And they decided not to bring nothing. We just brought cigarettes, basically. And, snacks and waters for the kids. But no, there wasn't no drug run or nothing. That was really out there.
Okay, hang on for a minute. You made an interesting comment just a second ago. You said, I'm not going to jail for nobody. Okay, then you told them that. Okay, so that means at some point you must have observed something that did not fit.
Yeah, I was telling you, marijuana. Marijuana, because they wanted to bring, marijuana with them. And that's what it was. And I was like, no, no. We're about to cross multiple states. It's already, it's supposed to have it here, and now y'all want to go and drive all the way down there with your little bit of weed, a bowl pack or two or whatever the hell you're smoking, or a blunt or whatever, and I'm like, I don't want to be part of that because of my record from the past. They'll throw me up and they'll lock me up, throw away the key. I'm like, no, I'm not going to jail for anybody. Please think about this. And that's when they all decided, they were like, you know what, Jose, you're right.
So it sounds like it was going to be a drug run, though.
No, it wasn't not to bring drugs down there. It was for them to smoke on the way down.
Gotcha.
It wasn't no, access, delivery thing. No, it was their personal thing for them to smoke for themselves. Whenever we had a pit stop or something like that, I guess. And I was like, no, just don't bring it. We don't know what's going to happen. That was my main concern.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's go then to what date was that approximately, if you remember? And I know it's been a while.
Yeah, that I do not know. I don't remember the exact date. And that's what I've been telling everyone. I really don't remember the exact date. I didn't even remember the exact date I left until I went into my bank statement. And I'm like,
that's cool.
You just go in there, and I'm like, whoa, okay, this is the day I left. So even it was a surprise to me, even.
Okay. Well, we can pin that down later on here. Let's keep moving though. So you're there. They show up, and you see Summer. Is that the first time you see Summer?
Yes, absolutely. She actually walked up to me and shook my hand and introduced herself.
Oh, really? And
first time, and you know, and I remember that because Candace had told Summer, you just walk up to a stranger and say hi, and Summer's like, he looks nice. That's exactly what she said, and they just all started laughing.
So, at that point, when you first meet her, Candace's response is you just walk up, say hi. So, right, like any other 4-year-old or 5-year-old at that point, right?
At that time, I think she was like 3.
Well, that can't be true. That can't be accurate.
3 or 4, I believe. 3 or 4 years old, I believe, somewhere around there. Because this February she should have been 6. She should be 6 because her birthday just passed. So last year she would have been 5, and the year I was, about 4, yeah.
So you're at the house. Well,
February 4th.
Yeah, I don't want this to get confusing real fast, so I want to stay focused here.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to stay focused. So she's about 4, okay, and that's your first impression of her in relationship to her, you know, being outgoing. She just walks right up to you, introduces herself, or something to that effect. Is that accurate? Is what you're saying? Okay. From that point, what happened? Go ahead.
Hello? Can you repeat that again? You cut off.
The question was, from that point on, so what happened after that, after she introduced herself to you?
Not much, really. I got to, Andrew introduced me to Candace, to the grandmother, and to Allie. I wound up meeting Hunter for the first time there as well. And Allie's youngest daughter I met there. And we introduced ourselves, and Andrew was explaining to them, you know, what I was going through with my divorce, and, you know, and he's really having it rough. He needs help. He doesn't want to go back. And Candace was like, he can stay in my place. I got an extra room. And she even offered for all of them to stay, but they all said no. They wanted to go back. And I was like, I'm just going to stay. I'm just going to rug it up, wait for my contract, and go. That's it. So we wound up getting into the truck, and we were just there. They drove. I'm just looking at the scenery and stuff. And Hunter was next to me, and Summer was leaning up on Hunter, and he was on his phone. And then Allie's youngest daughter was in the back seat as well, and I was pinched up to the door. And then the 3, Candace, her mother, and Allie were in the front of the truck, and that's where they sat. And they were just asking me, you know, what kind of work I did and things like that. Just, I guess, getting to know me.
So what was your initial impression of them, and had you seen the house prior to them inviting you?
No, I didn't see the house prior, no. And my first impression was they were nice. That was my first impression.
And,
you know, and Andrew kept telling them, you know, he's really going through a lot, you know, try to be easy with him. You know, and he was explaining to them about, you know, me trying to commit suicide and all of that. So they knew already, you know, before I entered the home, my personal problem already. And Andrew was like, you know, he just doesn't want to go back because he doesn't want to feel like that anymore. And they were like, it's understandable. And, you know, Allie was, that's why I left Gloversville. You know, it was too depressing over there. So I moved down here, you know, and that's what she wound up doing. And I was like, oh, okay.
And Chris, just to catch up to speed, if you didn't hear, I asked him his initial impression of all of them, and if he had seen the house before he was invited to stay there, and he said no, he has. And for the people just joining us, Jose Roman is with us here on the interview room.
See, this is why Josh is here. Boom, right there, buddy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, the last question I asked was in relationship to out front meeting everybody, and did we get that cleared up as to who was there? And that was going to be my next question. How did we end up at 110 Ben Hill Road? So did you guys already cover that?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what was your impression overall of the first meet and greet?
They were nice.
And what was their impression of you?
They felt sad for me because of what I was going through. Okay. You know, and they were telling me that, you know, I had my 3 children. I shouldn't be thinking like that, you know, because eventually my children might need me, you know, when they're older. You know, that's the way they were talking to me on the ride home. Because I was just sitting in the back and I just began to cry, you know, because I'm in the truck and I don't know none of them. It's the first time I ever met them, you know, so it kind of felt uncomfortable a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I started crying, you know, and
whose
Hunter
truck?
had said something in Candace's mother's truck. Okay. And Hunter had turned to
is that the Silverado?
Like, okay? Yes. And Hunter had, he started the initial conversation. He's like, Jose, you all right? You know? And that's when, while Candace was driving, she had turned back real quick and looked at me. And she had told her mother and Aldi that I was crying in the back. And they're like, what's wrong? You know, and I was just talking, telling them what was going through my mind and stuff. You know? And they were like, it's hard. We know it, you know, but you got to try to stay focused and things like that. So they seemed real nice.
And around what time in the evening was this?
I don't even remember.
Okay, that's cool.
I honestly don't remember.
That's cool. So at some point, do you make it up to the house up there?
Yep.
And what was your?
And I remember my first was the driveway. That
driveway was something, isn't it?
Oh my Lord! So and it was crazy because Candace tried to go up in the Silverado and the tail kept kicking sideways. And her mother yelled at her, didn't I tell you got to put it in 4-wheel drive? And hearing that, I'm like, what? You need 4-wheel drive to make it up this driveway? Because I expected a paved driveway. I wasn't expecting a driveway like that, you know? So she wound up, you know, reversing the truck. You put it in 4-wheel and romped it right through, like just put pedal to the metal just to get up to the hill. So as we're pulling up, I remember just seeing the grass taller than summer. Like it was, and the lawnmower sitting there. And they were saying, yeah, Hunter is supposed to be doing that. And he's like, yeah, but that's a lot, you know? And he was right. It really was a lot. And he was like, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing nothing, so I could help if you want a little help. And he was like, yeah, that'll be great. I was like, yeah, why not? Because it'll keep my mind off of things. Just trying to keep my mind busy. So we wound up pulling up, and then I remember seeing Candace's mother's camper and the fridge. And then they had a couple of other things like tires and things like that, like in a little pit or something. And Candace was saying once in a while they'll light that up and burn trash there during the nighttime so nobody tell, you know, with the black smoke and things like that. And as we get to the house, all I can remember were these dogs just swarmed the truck, and they just barking. And I'm just looking at them like, oh, and you know, Hunter's laughing at me. He's like, oh, they're all punks, you know, but he didn't say it like that. He said a bad word, but he was like, they all bark and no bite. And then Candace was like, that's really because they know you. They don't know Jose, you know? And I was like, oh man, I might get bit by one of these dogs. And I wound up getting off of the truck. And when I got off, I had all four of them like in front of me showing teeth, growling. And Candace and her mother had to like yell at the dog to leave me alone.
So you, in the there, Jose, who's in the truck with you? And then, yeah.
In the truck with me, it was, okay, so in the front seat, it was, Candace, her mother, and Allie. And then in the back seat, it was, Summer, Hunter's sister, and me.
Okay, where were the boys? If you knew.
At home, matter of fact.
Later on, if you found out later.
Yeah, they were at home.
Okay, so
that's where they were.
When you pulled up, were the boys there?
Yes. They were in the house, actually.
Okay, and where did you guys park?
She parked like right next to the house, but a little after the porch.
Okay, and when you got out, the dogs obviously did their thing. What happened next?
We got out. Hunter took Summer out. They all got out, and they all started walking in the house. They asked me if I needed any help with my luggage. I was like, no. I just picked it. I was able to carry it on my own. And I took it, and they was like, don't be afraid of the dogs, because that was my main fear. They were going to bite me. And they just kept saying, don't worry about the dogs. And then as we go up to that front door, they had those center block things in that yellow, look like a scaffold type deal there, for like, you know, for you to hold with your hand. And I saw that, and I was like, that's dangerous, you know, especially with kids. You know, and she's like, yeah, my husband is doing work around the house. We're going to fix this eventually. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I just climbing up the stairs, and I remember walking through that front room, and all you could see is just wreck everywhere, clothes all over the place, cups, empty water bottles, soda bottles, just on top of the tables, the TV stand, movies piled up. And then they had two queen-size mattresses laid out on the floor, and those had the pillows and blankets, plus a couple of the kids' clothes was there. They had
In what rooms were those mattresses, Jose?
The first room when you enter.
Okay.
Yes.
How many mattresses? And how many mattresses?
It was two.
Okay.
Right next to each other.
All right. Were there bunk beds there at that time?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Then what happened? This is the first time you go in, right?
Yes. Then they were telling me to come into the kitchen.
Who was telling
you? You know, Allie, Candace, and the grandmother, they were like, come into the kitchen, come sit down. We're not going to fight, you know, like they were laughing, you know, just cracking jokes and stuff.
And where
I was already depressed, though.
Right.
Running around. Summer went straight to the swing, and the boys was outside with her, and they were there just playing.
Okay. And was it daytime then?
Yeah, it still was daytime.
Okay.
That I do remember.
Okay. Then what happened?
Then I went into the kitchen with them. They cleared out the table a little bit, and I had sat down. I had asked for water. They had given me water. And then I was like, could I use your bathroom? And they was like, yeah. And then that's when Allie had told Hunter to show me where it was, to take me to the bathroom. So that's when I wound up getting up. You walk past that little bar thing that they have, and right there was these two big 6-straw dressers, one on top of the other with a sheet over it. And Hunter was like, the bathroom's right here, and he just pointed. So I go, and when I look, it's just the toilet, the shower, and the sink. No walls, no doors at all. And I was like, whoa. And they were like, oh, don't worry, nobody's going to go back there, I was like, okay. So I just wound up using the bathroom. And I'm just standing there like, where's the wall at? There's no door, and then I noticed the water tank heater that they had up in the ceiling and the pipes coming from the ceiling and stuff. And I just started to observe, just to look around and stuff. And then I noticed their closet and all the clothes that was there. They had a BB rifle there laying up against the sink in the closet. I used the bathroom, turned right back around, and came right back to them. And I didn't even notice the stairs at this time yet, because I just walked right back. And then I was like, can I put my stuff away? Because the kitchen was clustered already. And I had a pretty big suitcase with me. And that's when Candace was like, yeah, come with me. And I was like, okay. And then I seen her walk to the bar. And I was like, there's stairs there? And she's like, oh yeah, my husband's 6 foot, he fits down here. Same thing, basically what she told you. If he can sit down here, so can you. But I'm wide. I'm a hefty guy, and I'm like, oh my God. And then Hunter was like, my mom fits through there, we all do. And I was like, okay. So that's when I have walked down there, down those steps. The jacket I had on, it had on one of the nails. It didn't rip it though, but it got caught on one of the nails. And I was like, that's dangerous. And I started to walk down the steps. Then I noticed the TV there. And I noticed a blue couch in front of the door. And then their mattress was to the back of that room. And it was on top of center block. And
who's their mattress? Who's their mattress?
Candace and her husband.
Okay, go ahead.
And then Candace was like, this was where you could, this will be your room, Jose. And then when I looked over to the right, the bunk beds were there.
Okay.
And I just walked in there, and they had the bunk beds there, and they also had another little mattress there too. But it looked more like a toddler's mattress, but it didn't look like anyone slept on it. I think it was just something for them to sit on when they were playing and stuff like that. So I just went. I put my luggage up against the wall, and then I just went right back upstairs.
Were there toys down there when you first got in?
Oh yes. After it was full of toys.
Did it look like a toy room?
A lot of toys. Yeah, pretty much so. It looked like a typical kid's room, like just a room for children.
Well, that room for me didn't look like a typical kid's room, but kind of qualified.
With all the toys with all the toys and stuff, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah. Okay. So you thought it was a playroom of some sort. When
yeah.
Did they describe anything about that room or the parents' room at that point? Is Candace down there with you, showing you around, basically giving you the tour?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Like, you could look outside and they could look inside as well.
Yeah, there's.
But I guess you could, yeah. I think because the grass was so tall, you could have noticed it. But once you mowed that lawn, is pure sunlight used to come in through there.
Right. So let's go back upstairs now. You're upstairs from the dungeon, is what I call it.
Okay.
And this is like the first night, or you're just kind of getting to know everybody. At what point is Allie staying there at this time, by the way?
Yes. She was actually staying with her kids for the weekend.
Okay. And where are they sleeping? Do you know? Where did they end up sleeping?
Upstairs. Like, they all bunched up upstairs.
Okay.
Like a big slumber party, you could say. Yeah, it was just a big slumber party.
Okay. And
just all of them bunched up there.
Is Allie's mom there?
Yeah, but she slept in her camper.
Oh, I mean, that's Candace's
mom.
Is that Allie's mom or Candace's mom?
No, Candace's mom.
Okay. How about Allie's mom?
She wasn't there.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't meet Allie's mother and grandmother and great-grandmother until I was there for a little while, probably maybe like a week or two before I actually met them.
So they had been kicking it there before you even got there.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So did everybody kind of have a sleeping, quarters staked out? Grandma.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Okay. And just like a big, crash house or other.
Excuse me?
Is this like a big crash house? Are there other people coming and going? I mean, not that first night, but the more you stayed there, were there other cars coming up there? Were there, other things going on?
No. Nope. Not at all.
Was Candace getting hammered at night? Was Candace getting drunk at night?
Yeah. After 5 o'clock.
So every night after 5, or just a few nights after 5? You tell me.
Yeah, probably like a few nights, but as her and Dawn started to get into the fights over the phone, it started to become every single night. When I got
Dawn
there,
calling every night? Was Dawn calling every night?
She would call. She was calling him, not the other way around. He didn't call. She called him.
Okay. And what was your impression of that? Why did she have to do that?
Yeah, most of the time that she called him was for money to buy food for the house. And then they'll wind up arguing because he's pushing for her to move up to Utah, and she'll drop the F-bombs left and right, and no, I'm not going,
Yeah, so
those are basically their fights there.
Okay. And what about the kids during this time? Who's during all the flowing of the alcohol and all I'm assuming there's got to be some dope involved in this too, right? Somewhere?
No. No.
Is there any marijuana? No. Anybody smoking marijuana up there?
Nope. No. Okay. Just alcohol and cigarettes.
Okay. Alcohol and cigarettes. And so, go ahead.
That was all they were doing.
Okay, and you say they. Who's they?
We will all be watching them. It wouldn't be like none of us are watching them.
but the kids had their own routines at the time. You know, they watched their own shows. They will play on their phone on the video games, or they'll go outside and play. You know, and when they were hungry, they would just come in, we're hungry. And then Candace would be like, well, grab a pizza and put it in there. You know what to do. And they would just do it themselves.
Jose, was there any, so dope aside, were there any opioids? I mean, were they taking pills on and drinking? I mean, I take your word for what you're saying, but I would find it hard to believe that they weren't doing anything other than just alcohol and cigarettes.
Oh, no. In front of me, that's all they was. I didn't see them taking no pills or anything.
Gotcha.
The only one who took pills was Candace's mother, but she had a lot of pills, like a whole bunch of different medications. So I'm thinking cholesterol, blood pressure, you know, all these other, you know, because I have family that take multiple pills. So he would come out with like a little bag, and it's a whole bunch of different pills. And she would always say, I have to take this damn stuff every day, and I don't really like it. It makes me feel weird. And that was her main complaint. But she didn't drink. Candace's mother was the only one that did not drink. She would not drink at all. She would always fight if anyone drank.
And Chris, let me just ask you really fast too. Was your experience similar to Jose's when it came to the dogs when you first arrived on that property?
Yeah, they were everywhere. They came out of the woods,
barking and somewhat aggressive.
They came right at the truck. They came right at me, right when I got out, and that's why Karen stayed in the truck.
Right.
So
he hit that one on the head.
Yeah, that piece of the puzzle. So that was a great question too, Josh. You got more on that? Go ahead.
Well, you know, we talk about how they say stranger abduction, and it seems to me that if a stranger walked up on that hill, he would have been greeted the same way both of you were greeted.
Oh, absolutely. Believe that. That's 100% correct. They would have definitely went up to whoever it was. The only way they wouldn't come up to you like that is if they knew who you were.
Right. And how long did it take the dogs to get used to you?
A few days. Yeah. 2-3 days.
Yeah. Strangers aren't walking up on the hills.
Yeah, I remember telling Candace, you need a zoo license. I mean, there were cats, dogs, you know, they were everywhere. They were everywhere in there. Okay, and so
even if you make it, they bark. I'm sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead. Say it again.
I was Jose. Even if they knew you and you came up, would they bark when like cars would come home and stuff?
No. If they knew who you were, they wouldn't bark, but they would approach the car.
Okay.
Would approach you, but they wouldn't like growl or bark. No.
So while you were there, Jose, just kind of shifting back here, the breakdown of where everybody's drinking, at what point would the tolerance level kick in and everybody pass out?
I will be the first one to pass out. So
you were?
After that, yeah, I'll be the first one to knock out. I was, going through a lot.
Yeah.
So I just went downstairs and just slept. But it's like 8:30, 9 at night. I'm in bed already, ready to conk out. And they would still be up in the kitchen, laughing, playing music. Kids running around, having fun,
Where are the children? Where are the children at this point? Just running around
in the front room playing, watching TV.
What kind of video games did they play?
One of them was like a racing game on the phone. Another one was a puzzle game or something like that. But I heard there was a couple of more, but I never, like, really was into phone games or anything like that, so I really didn't pay it mind. But the boys mainly played their racing game on the phone.
What kind of games did the kids play that you?
Excuse me? You asked what kind of games they played?
Yeah, meaning outside games, kids games.
Oh, hide and go seek. They played on the swing, tag. They played with their soccer ball. The boys would throw their footballs around sometimes, you know, and they really wanted to ride their bikes. You know, that was when I knew they had dirt bikes, when I found that out. But Candace wouldn't let them drive it. She kept saying, you have to wait for your dad to come back. And that was their main focus, was their bikes. But those were the games they played typically.
So they wanted to get on those dirt bikes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you saw them play hide and seek, what would they do? Where would they go?
In the house, outside, in Candace's mother camper, in the fridge. I remember the first time I saw someone in that fridge, it freaked me out.
Tell me about that.
You know, I thought the fridge locked. Okay, so I was sitting outside towards Candace's mother camper. And there was like this little crate thing there, and I was just sitting there smoking a cigarette. And I remember the boys running outside, and they're like, Jose, did you see Summer? And I'm like, no. Why? Oh, we're playing hide and seek. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, I didn't see her. Maybe she's in the house. And they're like, no, we checked in the house. So I got up and I said, so she's out here somewhere hiding? And they're like, yeah, we got to find her. And I was like, isn't it like dangerous? And like, would she leave real far? Because this is the first time they're playing this, you know, and I'm finding out. And they're like, no, usually she's around here, hiding behind a tree or something. And I was like, oh, okay. So as the boys start walking to the shed to check over towards that way, all I did was turn my head, and I could see Summer peeking out of the door of the fridge. And I was like, what is she doing? And I wound up walking over to it, and she had closed it. And I was afraid that it
What side, left or right? What's Jose, what side, left or right?
Fridge?
Yeah.
The fridge? It was, well, where I was sitting at, I'm facing the house, it would have been to my left.
Okay, but what side is she peeking out? When you say to your left, I need some reference.
Okay, so she's peeking out of the door. She opened the door, she's peeking it. Because, you know, when you open the fridge door, it opens up through the bottom. So she just cracked it and stuck her head out and looked over.
Okay, do you remember if it was the left or the right door?
I don't remember which door it was.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Then what happened?
She wanted to peek out, and I wound up walking over there, and I'm like, Summer? And the boys was like, oh, you found her. Oh, she's in there again? And that's what they said. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm looking at that, and I was like, that doesn't lock. And they're like, no, it's broken. Like, we always use that. And I was like, oh, okay. So she winds up running out.
Is that the boys saying this?
All of them. Yeah, the boys, too, were saying that. So they used it, too. Them boys used to fit in there. I don't know how they did it, but they fit in there.
Okay. And what about Candace? What is her reaction during all of this? Or where is she? What's going on?
Inside of the house, sitting on the kitchen table.
Okay, sitting at the kitchen table. And is she aware that that Summer's been hiding into that fridge before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How do you know that?
because she used to always tell him, go play hide and go seek, go outside, go play. You know?
Okay.
And she knew that she already had been in that fridge a few times.
Okay.
And she was like, I used to argue with her, but, you know, the fridge opens. Ain't nothing bad gonna happen to her in there. So I just gave up arguing with her about it.
So you argued with her about her hiding in that fridge? Is that what you're saying?
No, that Candace said she gave up arguing with her about hiding in the fridge.
Oh, so the mom and daughter had a conversation in the past. Did you hear that? Have you ever heard that?
No.
Oh, did you believe it? Yeah. About Summer having a conversation with Candace about hiding in the fridge?
Oh, I did. The way she was saying it, I believe that she did talk to Summer about the fridge.
Okay.
But then Candace was like, she just gave up. And she was like, she's not going to get hurt in there. I already checked the fridge. Everything's fine. You know, it opens, closes. It doesn't lock. Okay. You know, I really didn't think nothing of it.
Okay.
When the kids were playing hide and go seek and things like that, just around the house, how rough were they with each other?
Not real rough, but just like normal kids. Accidents happen, you know, maybe one time Wyatt was running real quick and he was running around to hook around the corner of the house and he ran into Waylon. Waylon wound up falling and scraping his knee. That's like the worst I've seen.
So, okay, so they play outside. Where else did the children used to hide that you're aware of?
In Candace's mother camper in the bathroom.
Say it again?
In Candace's mother's camper inside of the bathroom.
Okay. Is that one of the cabinets?
Yeah. No, it's a bathroom.
Okay. She just hid it.
Yeah.
She hid in the bathroom.
Yeah, because that was Candace's mother's like storage. She didn't use the bathroom there. She used the bathroom in the house. So she converted her bathroom from the camper into like a storage unit. She had a lot of stuff stored in there, and she used to argue with Summer about that because she was afraid that, you know, Summer knocked something down and, you know, it comes toppling on top of her.
It sounds like the kids, you know, are just kids, and they're out running around, playing on the property. Yeah. Tell me about the swing. Is that her favorite place to go, or what's your opinion?
Oh yeah, Summer. That's her go-to. She loved that swing a lot. Constantly on the swing, always. And then no shoes and no shirt. I can tell you that right from the get-go. No shoes and no shirt, sitting on that swing, just swinging away.
I'm not buying it. I'm sorry, but I'm not buying it. I can't. For the life of me, I wish I could. I do not doubt that some of the stuff that Jose is saying is accurate, and he's given you an interpretation of a twisted truth. Because look, and I'm going to tell you why I don't buy it. Because what it seems to me is, look, he's obviously said some things that are damning to Candace, because ultimately he couldn't just go on there and paint Candace out to be a complete saint. He couldn't, because nobody would have then believed him. He would have been discredited immediately, and you wouldn't have listened to it. So he had to give you something. He had to give you some information that seemed damning enough to put him in the realms of, look, this guy is thinking about Summer. But what didn't really matter, because we all pretty much knew. How many times have I said that she was grooming that child? Jesus Christ. It wasn't rocket science to work out what was going there. But what it does do, however, is prove that Hunter is a liar. And he was lying for Candace. Remember, now, Jose turns around and says someone was always running off, which was proven. It was proven earlier on. Don Surfy Senior had said that they'd seen him up by the road. You know, these children would be running about. I can see it now. It was harder to believe they didn't run off. But for some specific reason, Candace wanted people to believe that Summer wouldn't run off, and Hunter lied for her. So Hunter's a liar. So anything he says now is completely discredited. I don't believe him. But he also tried to throw Candace under the bus in the same manner with which Jose did. So, look, again, offers some degree of credibility to things he says. But I think that's kind of all for show. But hear me out. So what we're meant to believe is that Don is a massive tyrant. He's a tyrant. He was throwing kittens into dog pens in front of Summer, and he really tugged on the heartstrings of that one. Well done, Jose, sorry. And he managed to get into everybody's heads because of the way he was able to describe Summer. You know, he knew that that's what people wanted to hear. It hadn't been done, and he needed to get everyone's attention, and what better way to do it? This guy knows what he's doing. And a lot of people just fell for it, hook, line and sinker, because of their emotional connection to the case and their emotional connection to Summer. But look, if you ain't part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And the be-all and end-all is, you was there, you watched it, you cleared off for 9 months, and I hear people going, that he had a breakdown, he had his own problems. Who hasn't got problems? Who hasn't got problems? Does that mean if you've got a problem that you can ignore children being abused? Physically, emotionally?
It's because he was basically saying, Candace, it's me. It's me, the guy that sat with you for hours crying on a night time while you told me about everything that worried you to do with Don. Remember the time, Candace, when Summer went missing? Found her behind the building? Or the other time when Donald brought her back because she'd gone missing and he was carrying her back up the driveway, spanking her bum as he carried her back up? I thought Donald said that she never left the property, like she never disappeared. But it sounded from Jose that she was going missing quite often, and when she did, she'd hardly have anything on, no clothes, just maybe a t-shirt, no shoes. Getting back onto the subject of them not having anything, Candace was struggling to feed the kids. Don was going to houses and spending all of his money on substances, while Candace had nothing. Apparently, according to Jose, Ali was a really good friend, a strong woman who would do anything for anyone. And when Grandis drove down and got Ali and brought her back to the house because Candace was so upset, Ali took them all to Walmart and spent nearly $300 on food and things for them all so they could all eat, which I thought was amazing. And oh my God, guys, as we all suspected, well, I certainly did anyway, apparently according to Jose, who seems very genuine, and I do believe everything he's saying, to be honest, whether you do or not, that's everybody is entitled to their own assumptions and opinions, but apparently they were all drinking one night, Hunter was drinking, Candace was drinking, and they admitted that that was the night Hunter lost his virginity to Candace. Oh my God. So apparently they had asked for Jose to not mention it to Ali. They didn't want Ali to know because, as Jose said, he felt that knowing Ali, she would have literally hurt Candace, and that she wouldn't have been on side for that at all, which, who would be? He's a 15-year-old boy. And they said that it was a one-off thing, and as according to Jose, didn't think that it happened again, but who knows? We've all seen the TikToks of them looking close. So was this the real reason why Candace and Ali are no longer friends? Had Ali confronted Candace about it? What had gone on? Who knows? But as Jose said, and something that I'd said recently in a video, was that it was just strange that, you know, Ali's got a child that's not that far off in age from Summer, and it was just funny how it was always Hunter that was going down to places like the watering hole and things like that, or coming up to the house, but yet Ali's other children didn't.
All I gotta do is make one phone call. I got people who put their life on the line for me.
Well, it's not about people putting lives on the line. It's about you doing what's right, man.